All right, so welcome back to the What Are You Into Lately segment. In this segment, I chat with folks about what they're into, and today I've got an exciting guest joining me, Jill Wright, a pal of mine from an entrepreneurial group we are in. And so, Jill, who is Jill? Jill Wright is a time management expert who helps busy professionals, parents, and students reduce burnout, increase productivity, and build more intentional lives. Her holistic approach to time management considers both rest and productivity, guiding individuals to align their energy with their values. As a mother of four, including a child on the autism spectrum, she has a personal and professional passion for supporting neurodivergent individuals, particularly in how they perceive and manage time. Her work is especially impactful for those newly navigating ADHD, autism, or time blindness. So she's got the resume. We're thrilled to have her. And welcome, Jill, to the podcast. Super excited to have you.
Thanks. I'm really happy to be here with you. This is going to be so fun.
Yeah. So Jill and I have been planning this for a while, lots of back and forth. So thrilled to finally have her here. And what I love about Jill and her work is, as you heard in the intro, it's so expansive. There's not just kind of one silo within, time that she really kind of focuses on. And I love that the through line is, in my opinion, you don't just manage time for the sake of managing time. You manage it to live your life to the fullest and really bring out optimization with regards to how you use your time. And so that's what I really love about your work. You really kind of treat the symptom to help people really produce and create a better life. And so for me specifically, I'm in Indiana. We've made it to September. It's finally cooler weather. We're happening upon, cozy season. Picture pumpkins, picture apples and bonfires with friends, parties, etc. And so today I kind of wanted to chat about how we can maximize our time to really take advantage of these things in this season, in addition to community building, so the season doesn't just pass us by. And if there are any practical tools you can provide us with to kind of help us out with that. So how does that sound?
Oh my God, that sounds so good. I'm in Ottawa, and so we are starting to see leaves change colors, and we are getting those cooler nights and mornings. And so I'm right there with you. I love this season.
Okay, I'm so glad you are, because my dad is always scolding me for being so bad at geography. Obviously, I know where Canada is, but with regards to the seasons, I'm like, I think it's also fall for them. They're so close to Michigan. I'm sure we have the same season at the same time. So
Totally.
glad that's the case. Okay, so yay, to get us kicked off here, what fall activities do you typically look forward to? Is there something you and your kiddos do annually, or what does that look like?
Yes, it's funny. I have a list, shocker, on my phone for each season of things to do in the fall, things to do in the spring, because
Love.
I love creating these traditions for the kids. It started when they were small. So we obviously do pumpkin patch is a big one in the fall. We go apple picking and make either pie or applesauce or something like that. A lot of the fall activities for me are about being outside, because we had killer hot summers and the humidity is off the charts, and we just can't enjoy the outdoors as much as we can in the fall season. And so it's about taking the kids outside, and me, because I'm a nature freak as well. So it's hiking, doing drives with the colors, with the leaves changing. All of that for me is very fall. And of course, I love doing the seasonal switchover in the home of summer gear into winter gear. That is so satisfying for me to do.
No, I love that. It sounds so organized, which I don't think that I would expect anything else from you. I feel like I always want to do those things, but depending on what's going on in life and how settled my husband and I feel right now, we feel like we're in such a chaotic time for 1,000 different reasons. So I'm trying to kind of get ahead of okay, if this is what I want us to do, let's kind of plan in advance. And so I follow a TikTok account. I'm on TikTok so many hours of the day because I haven't been feeling well, but that's besides the point. That's an issue for a different practitioner to solve. But I was on TikTok and I follow a creator named Katrina, and she prides herself on being the oldest Virgo daughter. And so she said her whole life has been making lists for things all the time. And she actually shared a list of activities inclusive of autumn prep, autumn activities, movies, media for the fall, recipes and food, etc., to help people like me who like want it but can't like get ourselves to figure out what in the hell we're doing. And so I really love people like that who can kind of help it out. And I love that you have that list for yourself. Is that something you usually share, or what does that look like?
I hadn't ever thought that anybody but me would be interested. So that's a cool thought now for me, Jadonna, to think about.
For sure.
I love being able to help people like in whatever season figure out what's going to work for them. Like seasons for me are really big in my work. There's sometimes like weather seasons like fall, spring, whatever, but just like a season of life. Cause I feel like when we enter a new season, it's so obvious that some things aren't going to work. And we maybe have like big intentions and goals for ourselves for the season of life that we're in. And yet we can struggle getting it going. And so whether that be like the back to school season or the holiday season, like these are all real. We have huge wants and desires and goals as specifically as moms, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's a big passion of mine to be able to help people nail down like what is going to work for you in your life that is realistic for this season that actually matters to you. And we can kind of figure out a way to get rid of the rest or postpone the rest to another season.
Yeah, and so that's a great segue into that next question I have. So you've got 4 kids, you've got a full-time job, you've got your entrepreneurial work, and you've got a lot of other things going on. And so in addition to just being excited about the season and having these things that you want to do, how do you actually nail out which ones you're actually going to be doing? And are there any practical exercises, kind of similar to the questions you just asked, for people like me who find it hard to like nail something down because our brains are just everywhere?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really common. We get so excited, and especially those of us who might have ADHD and like squirrel brain, we're just like FOMO, like all the things. I've got all the ideas and all of the hobbies and interests, and I want to do them all. And yet, then you look at your calendar and you're like, when? And then you get
Yeah.
sort of depressed because you don't know.
And then your
I
house
think
is dirty, and then what's for dinner? It's just like,
it's life, and this is the point of why we manage time. Is that you were saying in the beginning? It's exactly right. Is that we try, or at least I try to get a handle on my time management so that I can live a life that I want, right? The goal isn't to be a master of my time. The goal is a spacious life that I love. And so what I would recommend people do if they're feeling like you is you can do a couple things. One thing that I always go to if this works for you and it doesn't for everyone, but like brain dump it down, get it out of your head, write it down, and from that list can either there's a bunch of different ways you can prioritize, but you're looking for like a top 3 because no matter what season you're looking at, how long or short it is, it's important not to get overwhelmed with all of the should do, could do, would do, want to do's, and really get clear on where you can spend your time so that it aligns with your values because you're going to make the memories that way. You're going to feel good about your time that way. You're not going to feel FOMO. You're not going to feel like guilt about being one place but you should be in another or whatever. And so if you can start to ask yourself questions like, does this thing support me in some kind of way? Is this giving me joy? Is it bringing me closer towards a goal? You start to develop whatever questions make sense for you around the tasks that you're looking at doing or the activities or whatever. And it becomes more clear what is a priority based on a value. And those are the things that I would challenge you to do first. And maybe you get them all out of the way the first week of fall and you're like, this is great. I have a lot more time than I thought. This wasn't as
yeah.
scary. You can do the exercise again. But even if you do nothing else, you've done 3 things that are really important and impactful for you and your family in this season.
I always love talking to you because I'm always just like, oh, that makes sense. Like sometimes you just need someone who can help you take the macro to the micro without
100%.
feeling overwhelmed. And gosh, reach out to Jill, y'all. So one of my values and my family's values is community. That's a big one, but I haven't been feeling well lately. Our 2.5-year-old is in a new school. My husband is potentially trying to transition jobs. We just have so much going on, but community is still something we prioritize like in our hearts. But with the fall and trying to get other families engaged in things and just like the emotional capacity it takes to just literally coordinate around a schedule, it's really hard to try to find and align activities with values in this stage. So I'm just kind of curious, like for folks who maybe do have values, like let's say someone values community, but maybe they're struggling mentally, and like how do you align your activities with your values when like you're struggling to even connect with your values because of personal reasons?
I think what we need to do is sort of take a big step back and reassess what we have capacity for, right? And what are the external circumstances that are just real? We could have all the best intentions and we could have this perfect scenario that if everything went according to plan, this is what I want. And yet life happens. And so if we get really clear on what's the reality of where we're at, is it a season where all of our community is just as in the muck as we are? Like, are they all back to school? Are they all starting extracurriculars? Are they all preparing for holidays? Maybe that's not the right season to
Mm,
try to gather in a way that you would try to gather in the summer when people have more freedom and they are, the nice weather's encouraging people to get out. And so just really not ditching the value, but being creative in how you bring that about. Can you build community in a smaller way? Can it be a play date or one family over for a great feast, one night or a games night? Does it have to be more than that? Will that fill your cup? Or could you bring in community virtually? I know that we're all a little
mm.
bit like zoomed out, and yet, sometimes that little piece of connection and the reminder is going to do it for you. Maybe it's a voice note instead of a text, like how can we
Yeah.
massage the things that already are happening to bring some of these values like community in without creating huge expectations of ourselves?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's super helpful. Because, yeah, it's one of those things where, kind of like you said, you want your life to be reflecting your values, but in every single stage, it can be hard to do. And so instead of thinking of these very big, grand gestures that maybe I kind of idealize really fun, big splashes in my head, but I love what you said, like having a family over, FaceTiming, like a coordinated FaceTime, like little things that can make you feel excited, but don't make you feel daunted. I love that. That's so real. And again, I know we're all transitioning to different months, different seasons, different weather. And a lot of us, at the start of the year created these lists of tasks they wanted to complete before the year was over. And now we are nearing the last quarter of the year. And so, is there any advice you would give to folks who are like, it's September? Okay. My goal was to do blah, blah, blah. Or for some of you who maybe don't use goals and it's a little bit more lax, like, I was hoping to maybe do this thing that I haven't really had the time for yet. Would you recommend folks kind of just like maintaining what they're already doing because there's only so many months left, or trying to fit it into their schedules, or kind of with your time management background, like, how do you encourage people to still try to achieve those annual goals when the year is like very nearly coming to an end?
Right? You're like, I see the end of the tunnel. I hear this a lot. And this is the reason, like, this is one of the main reasons why I created like a seasonal calendar instead of a planner for the entire year, because our intentions in January and our circumstances and our reality of what's real in January is very different than what it is 9 months later in September. And that's natural. And that's how the flow of life goes. And so, sometimes we make really good progress and then we fall off, or sometimes we procrastinate and then we have in our head this goal, but it's no longer relevant. Like, at first ask yourself, is your goal still relevant? Because you can kind of release it if it's something that was important in January and now doesn't fit with life. So
Real.
permission, reassess. But if it is something, let's say habit or something new you're trying to bring into your life, the concept of time confetti is a really good way to do this without adding,
Yes.
right? So time confetti is the idea of the free time we have being in tiny pockets throughout the day of 5 or 10 minutes. Like, it's sprinkled like confetti throughout our day. And so it feels like we can't do much with it. What do? We pick up our phone and we scroll, right? When we're early for a meeting, when we're on hold, when the food's in the microwave, when we're pumping gas. All of these are examples of sort of free time, but we feel like we don't have time to do anything, learn anything, effort towards a goal because they're not sequential in order from like 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. They might be like 9:05 to 9:07. And then again at 3 p.m., you've got another 4 minutes. So they're hard to use. But what I challenge people to do is first recognize when you're in time confetti and then use that time specifically for something you're working on. I've got people who have like a time confetti practice for self care. I have people who have a time confetti practice for personal development or health. Like doing 10 jumping jacks and like running on the spot for 5 minutes is still 1,000 times better than not doing it. Right. So you can still make progress in small moments. And then you build this momentum and this habit. And before you know it, you're way closer than you were if you had just status quo and picked up your phone for those 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh, this is us talking on this specific day was meant to be because I'm like, that's how I can have a cleaner house.
Yes, girl. Yes, it is. And
I'm
I
like,
even
how the hell do I have a cleaner house?
that's how you do it. You do it 5 minutes at a time. You time confetti your house cleaning. And then when it's done, you're like, cool, I know there's another time confetti coming. It's not like this isn't going to get done later.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And when you first told me about time confetti, I remember having like such a massive aha moment because it's one of those things that makes total and perfect sense when you think about it. But if you aren't consciously thinking about it, you don't think to optimize it. You just
Of
think
course.
exactly what you said, like, oh God, I've only got 5 minutes instead of 5 minutes. Great. That's better than nothing.
Yeah,
It's almost like like not just taking advantage of the opportunity, but like seeing your time as an opportunity versus the opposite, like shifting that
totally.
mentality.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the literature on time confetti, it's not a concept that I made up. Bridget Schulte is a brilliant woman who coined the phrase many years ago. I actually got her on my podcast and I was like fangirling so hard. But anyway, she's not a celebrity except to anyone but me. But the research around time confetti is generally framed very negatively. Like you'll see, if you Google it, you'll see headlines like, how time confetti is stealing our leisure time and all of this. And when I heard about the
Mm.
concept, I'm like, no, I think this is an opportunity. And that is not to say, so for anyone listening who is a perfectionist and a go all in like I am, please don't feel like you need to utilize every moment of time confetti. It is
Yeah.
simply an opportunity. And if noticing the time confetti makes you a little bit crazy, maybe use those 5 minutes for breathing or like nervous system calming of some kind. And then the next time you notice it, you feel you have the capacity to do something, quote, productive, use it. But you get to decide. The whole point is that you're intentionally using those moments. And if you are intentionally using those moments to scroll cute cat videos, that's good because you know that you're doing it on purpose and there's the time will be over at the end. It is not this mindless suck that we sometimes can get sucked into.
Yeah, I love that caveat. That's so helpful. And that's also kind of leads into this next question is no matter what's going on in our lives, like time will be a factor. It's always a factor. And I know for me lately, it's felt extremely overwhelming. And just are there ways you have either read in literature with regards to time that have helped you kind of see it differently, or any kind of like general tips on how we can think about time as more of a partner versus like something we need to master and control?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, right? We can either feel like we have too much time or not enough time. Like both ends of the
Exactly.
spectrum are true. And when it comes down to it, the only reason we feel stressed about time is because the way that we are spending our time or living our life doesn't feel aligned. If it was feeling aligned, you wouldn't be stressed about the time. So I think first being conscious of when you do have a choice of how you spend your time, because let's be real, we have work, we have responsibilities, we don't have full
Mm-hmm.
control of our 24 hours. But when we do have those moments, trying to make sure that we're spending them in ways that feels good to us, that matters to us, that's supporting our values, that's one way you can sort of shift your relationship with time. But another interesting mindset shift is instead of being so tied to time on the clock, is thinking about how your life goes in rhythms and creating routines rather than specific time bound activities, which is much easier if you have some flexibility in your schedule, right? If you're a corporate worker, your 9 to 5 hours, you don't have the flexibility during that time. We can accept that and then recognize we do have another 16 hours of our day that we can. Like the majority of our day, even if we're in a corporate job or someone is telling us how to spend our time, we do have some choice and some autonomy over that. And so making sure that we're understanding, are we someone in the morning who likes to have a slower morning? Is the rhythm of the morning for us, do we need to build in some slowness,
Mm-hmm.
Or Are we someone who thrives on like get up and go and like get as much sleep as you can to the last minute, rush, 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 get out the door? We're fine with that.
Mhm.
And then you take some time at the end of the night. Like, what are the natural flows? How is your energy? When do you have the most energy? When do you have the most focus? And trying to use that sort of inner knowing or sort of personalize the way that you flow through your day if you can.
Yeah, super helpful. And I know you mentioned your calendar here, but would love for you to speak a little bit more to that and what your specific offerings are that you could kind of just like share with our listeners so they know, if they need more support, what they can and how they can get it.
Yeah, thanks. It's a super privilege for me to be able to do this. It's really fun. So I do work one-to-one with people in like 90-minute sessions. Time management's not something you need like a 3-month container for. Like we can bang out a lot and I can give you a lot of tools in one session. And then it's sort of like a seasonal tune up, like, okay, we'll tweak what worked, what didn't, what do we need to fix? So I do that type of work. But then my most fun and most recent project has been the Time Magic Planner. It is a 90-day seasonal calendar, weekly planning system, if you will, that is a physical paper product. And I've designed this to be an alternative to that standard, like January to December calendar, where we start, as we had mentioned, with one reality and intention, and then we find halfway through the year it's completely different. Maybe we have a different situation. And so seasonally looking at our life is a much more mentally manageable way to do it. It's very helpful for people who have like just any sort of atypical life or neurodiversity, being able to go through some of the interesting and unique things that are embedded in this planner. Like, well, what can I give you an example? We do glimmers, which is a reflection each week of things that went well or brought you joy. Practice of actually taking the time to notice those things and write them down, right? We talk about brain dumping and eating your frog, which is a concept a lot of people are familiar with, but like do the most important thing first and schedule it in.
Yeah.
We've got pattern tracking, which I think is much more helpful than habit tracking. If we're tracking patterns of energy, if we're tracking patterns of mood, of if you're like me and you follow the lunar cycles or like your menstrual cycle, all of this information can be helpful with your planning because you get to personalize. We all get to choose when we book our haircut. Like, do we want to book it on a day that might be traditionally a low energy day or a day where we just hate everybody and don't want to see anybody or we have a lot of self doubt, right? These things, if we are paying attention, we can use them to really create a schedule for ourselves that has a lot more ease and flow. And so to create a tool to be able to help people with that's been really fun.
Yeah. So where can people find you? I will have all of your social media in the show notes, but if there's like one place you're primarily at or something like that, where can people find you and what's your handle?
Yeah. My website's probably the best place because everything is there. There's the quiz. I have a fun quiz there. You can check out all the free stuff, all of the offers. It's jillwright.ca because I'm a little Canadian girl. So .ca is how we do it up here. And my main social media handle is Grow Like a Mother.
Yay, I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I know for me, this was extremely helpful, and I know it will be for folks as well. And yeah, is there anything else you'd want to add for the listeners before we zoom out of here?
Only that you need to trust your instincts and trust your intuition when you're trying to make decisions about time. It's much more personal than we give it credit for. We kind of give our power away when we're thinking about our schedules and our time. And so I'd encourage people to kind of use this conversation as a permission slip to take back control and autonomy where you can. And just trust that you know the best way for you to do it in this season.
That actually reminds me of something. So when my husband and I moved 2,000 miles away from home for nearly 5 years and then moved back, I realized when I was, when we were out in LA, how much of my time was surrounded or was taken up by like what my friends and my family wanted to do. And moving back home and my friends and family being confronted with more no's from me than maybe they realized, and no's without reason too, which I find appropriate, and they're hard, but boundaries are hard. It's just been met with interesting energy. And then you realize, wow, like so many people are not used to dictating their schedules based on like what really actually works for them. A lot of times, exactly what you just said, people give that power out to others. And it doesn't mean you don't need to show up sometimes and you don't want to, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, it's like I can truly and honestly say I do what I want with the energy I actually have. Um, and it does make you, I don't know, it kind of gives you like a little more closeness with yourself because you're honoring yourself. I feel like I'm finally honoring, like, if I'm tired and I know it might hurt someone's feelings, and if it's something that's not mandatory, like even this podcast, rescheduling with you, I would have never done stuff like that in the past, but I was like, I need to do that. And if it works later. And look at us now. So just want to encourage people, especially going into the fall season. There's like a lot more darkness. Some people have seasonal depression, like taking care of yourself and acknowledging exactly what Jill just said, like how you can make your time work for you. So then you can show up better in your communities as well. I feel like that has to be a direct correlation too. So
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. Well, thanks again, Jill, for joining today. This was a pleasure. And yeah, let's move on.